Good afternoon, this is Jeff with Sewer Tech Northwest. Today we're at property address 18051 Northwest Chemeketa Lane here in Portland. Located at the front of the house, we are just to the left of the doorway. I describe everything as if you're standing in the street facing the front of the house. We've got a 3-inch ABS cleanout right in the patio here. We're going to check the overall condition and serviceability of the sanitary sewer line. Waters are running. We are zeroed out. Off we go. I noticed when I got here, the cleanout cap was not threaded in terribly far. Can't tell if someone got some gunk into the cap, but I'll try and torque this thing down a little better. But you know, if you want to get the cap to thread in flush completely, sometimes you got to get a new cap that hasn't been boogered up over time. I'll see if I can clean the cap up and get it to thread in nicer. I just mostly mention that from sometimes these things can trip you up a little bit if they stick out of the ground too far. But when they get put in the very inception, if little bits of gravel and whatnot get into the cap threads, it can mar the plastic up bad enough they just don't thread in nicely anymore. You might see something on my report about that. Depends on how well I can get this thing torqued back in here. Anyway, we just transitioned there over to 4-inch 3034. A little bit of standing water there at the transition. Thus far, does not look concerning. It looks very minor. We'll get a nicer view of that on the way out when the line's drained. And a fairly clean sewer line, the flow line. There's a little bit of grease in here, but nothing crazy. Camera's upside down at the moment. That little dangly item there at the top of the pipe, that just looks like a big old giant cobweb there, not a root. And that right there is the main connection. We're tying right into the manhole out in the street. We're going to go locate that real quick while the pipe drains off, and we'll get a better look at everything as we come back in. Alright, located the camera head successfully. Line terminates out on Northwest Chemeketa Lane, and right into the manhole that's pretty much smack dab in the middle of the cul-de-sac. So again there, just a big cobweb hanging down is all that is. Very common thing to see in a sewer line, especially around manholes. Manholes provide, especially the vent holes in them, they provide a very easy access for all kinds of bugs, especially spiders. So you will often see very thick, heavy spider webs right around the entrance into a manhole. It's where all the flies can get into the lines too, through the vents in the manhole. So that's where they set up shop usually. Yeah, it's quite a clean line. There is very little grease in here. The flow line especially is nice and clean. You got a little bit of grease on the sidewalls, but it's very minor. This right here is about the only thing in the line I can even nitpick, and this is getting really nitpicky here. You have about a 1/4 inch, if that, offset joint. And this thing is rinky-dink. I don't even think it's not even that much. My camera doesn't even, I mean, it barely even bumps into that thing. So I'll notate it on the report. That is galaxies and light years away from needing any kind of fixing. The lip is too small on the offset to even affect functionality, and the joint shows no evidence whatsoever of being compromised or anything of that sort. Otherwise, we'd have pretty obvious stuff going on. Dirt sticking to the joint, stains on the sidewall where groundwater's seeping in, usually earthworms crawling around too. Fun stuff like that. And real quick here, just so I can give you an idea on the route, I'm going to do one more locate. It looks like the line jaunts into the driveway and then shoots down the driveway out to the street. Or something akin to that. At least it looked that way at the locate I got at the manhole. We're going to find out here right now. Yeah, so right here where we are currently sitting is in the driveway. As you face this house from the street, where at least I was at right there, was about 2 feet in from the left side edge of the driveway. So it gets onto the driveway, not super far in, but it does go into the driveway. Anyhow, we're going to go ahead and reel the camera on out here. Before I pull all the way out, I'm going to flip backwards real quick just to look through the foundation wall. Everything from the clean out access to the main lateral connection is in good condition, has good flow, and is functioning properly at this time. And at this rate, we are well within the crawl space. Everything from that point forward is all exposed piping. That's all stuff you can see with your eyeballs down the crawl space. I focus on the underground piping there. Good looking sewer line. Good flow end to end. Everything's intact, good condition, and quite clean, and good flow all the way out. And I'll make sure to notate that little tiny offset on the report. Not because the offset is concerning, mostly for when you go to sell the home. There's a lot of people doing sewer scopes these days that have no clue what they're looking at, and they start recommending repairs on every imperfection. So it's mostly to explain that away, more than anything. And real quick here, I'll show this. I think actually what the reason this clean out has such a hard time, this thing was a beast to get the cap off. And you can see it barely threads in here more than a turn or two. When I get to this point here and start torque, it feels like I'm about to break the cap. What sometimes happens as the concrete cures and shrinks around the clean out, it puts pressure on the cap and actually shrinks that cap just enough that the cap does not want to thread in all the way. So just be aware of that. If I torque on it anymore, I'm probably going to break the cap. So it's just one of those things. Luckily, it's positioned only about 16 inches from the front of the house, so it's not a huge walkway area. Just be aware of that more than anything. And they do have some flush set caps out there that torque down with a little tiny hex head nut that sit a lot more low profile. Anyhow, sewer line's functioning properly at this time.